August 2004, this is what Donald Trump said in Esquire. My life has seen everything in terms of how would I handle that? Look at the war in Iraq and the mess that we're in. So this is August 2004. We went into Iraq in March 2003. So this would be about a year and a half, March, April, May, June, July, August. So about a year and 5 months. My life is seeing everything in terms of how would I handle that. Look at the war in Iraq and the mess that we're in. I would have never handled it that way. Does anybody really believe that Iraq is going to be a wonderful democracy where people are going to run down to the voting box, gently put it in their ballot, and the winner is happily going to step up and lead the country? Come on, 2 minutes after we leave, there's going to be a revolution, and the meanest, toughest, smartest, most vicious guy will take over. That's pretty prescient, and he'll have weapons of mass destruction, which Saddam didn't have. What was the purpose of this whole thing? Hundreds and hundreds of young people killed, and what about the people coming back with no arms and legs? Not to mention the other side, all those Iraqi kids who've been blown to pieces, and it turns out that all the reasons for the war were blatantly wrong. All this for nothing. I would have been tougher on terrorism. Bin Laden would have been caught long ago. Tell me, how is it possible that we can't find a guy who's 6'6" and supposedly needs a dialysis machine? Can you explain that one to me? We have all these energies focused on one place where they shouldn't be focused. Yeah, he was in Pakistan, and it was the Saudi Arabians. If you believe the official story, 17 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. He's absolutely right. He's 100% right. So it took him till August 2004. He gave a tepid support for Iraq with the Howard Stern show, but he says, it was like, what do you think about the war in Iraq? And he was like, yeah, I guess so. So it was a very tepid response. It was very, and so to say that he was totally gung-ho for it, that he voted for it, and then he stood up and told everybody the reasons why he went for it. Hillary Clinton has never come across a war that she didn't like. She's intervened in Ukraine and Libya and, Syria and Somalia and Pakistan and Yemen and Honduras. She was instrumental when it comes to Honduras, Berta Cáceres, and then you had all those refugees that were coming over, and then she kicked them all out. So, I mean, how many more people died because of her refugee policy and with her, overthrowing government policy? And, that was a corporate coup d'etat. It was a corporate coup d'etat. And so we're, again, Jill Stein is 100% right, whereas Trump's fantasies are pretty scary. Hillary Clinton's realities were pretty scary. If she's a third Obama term, well, Obama's been deporting more immigrants than any other president in history. So, the Republicans have done a number to Obama to where he's actually, when it comes to immigration, he has deported more immigrants back to their home countries than any other president in history. That will carry on and continue. So when it comes to refugees and, giving a shit about refugees, we're taking some refugees right now, but just trickling in very little bit. So we fucked up the region in Honduras. They wanted to, come to America for refuge. We sent them back and become the #1 murder capital of the world. And now you got environmental activists such as Berta Cáceres, who's was killed by the coup d'etat government, the new government that was installed. And Hillary Clinton was absolutely instrumental in it. The coup d'etat happened. She said, well, he was trying to be a dictator, so let's have elections. So she kept that interim government that had coup d'etat in. They had elections, and surprise, surprise, the coup d'etat government that had gone ahead and established the elections were the ones that won that fucking election. So they ran the election. They won their own election after they took over the government. So, when did Donald Trump support it? When didn't he support it? At least it took him, 1 year and 4 or 5 months. There's still people that says, oh yeah, there was weapons of mass destruction. They had those chemical weapons. They had this. There's still people that saying that there were weapons of mass destruction, even though the CIA said that there were none. And so even Bush himself said, he looked under the couch. Where are those weapons of mass destruction? Made it a big joke. We went into Iraq for oil. We went into Iraq for empire. And so Donald Trump right here is 100% right. He's sitting there saying, you think that it's going to be a great, wonderful democracy? And then he says 2 minutes after we leave, there's going to be a revolution. After we left, it wasn't exactly a revolution, but there was ISIS comes swooping in. And so, he was thinking of it in a different kind of perspective, but in a way, he was absolutely 100% right. So when did Hillary Clinton come out against it? I can't remember when she came out again. I guess 2008 when Obama ran against her. Then all of a sudden she said that she was against it. So it would take another 4 years before Hillary would admit that she did anything wrong when it came to her vote and her vocal support for this war. So whereas Donald Trump, I mean, they're both right and wrong, whereas Hillary Clinton is right that he was not against the war to begin with. He came out against it very strongly against it a year and 5 months afterwards. And his rhetoric and his words that he says, Hillary Clinton didn't even come close to it. The most that she says, well, it was a mistake, but I was lied into it, so, you know, who gives a shit? It wasn't my fault. 60% of the Democrats voted for the Iraq War, you know, in March 2003. So when it comes to foreign policy, you know, this is his fantasies of, you know what, bombing the shit out of everybody, passing nukes, getting out of NATO, and maybe being isolationist, maybe being a warmonger, who the hell knows? We know what Hillary Clinton has done. Every time they said, hey, you want to go to war with that? Yes, let's do that. Libya, she pushed hardest for it, got Obama to topple Libya. It's a mess now. Honduras, she was instrumental in it. You know, she even wrote about it in her book, Tough Choices. In Tough Choices, she redacted all those words about what happened and what she did in Honduras because people were, you know, coming after her for it. But it was a fucking coup d'etat. And if you look at our history when it comes to Latin America and South America, we've been, because of the Monroe Doctrine, we think we could just invade our backyard, which actually would be our front yard, but whenever we feel like it. So Donald Trump wasn't 100% correct in saying that he was completely against the Iraq War from the very get-go, but in 1 year and 5 months in this Esquire magazine, this interview, he nailed it. He knocked it out of the park. He was absolutely right. So it took him 1 year and 5 months to get it correct. I don't even know if Hillary's even got it correct yet. She did admit that it was a mistake, you know, 5 years later. But even today, she just, you know, still tries to, she takes no responsibility for it. She's not being held accountable for it. Her vote, 60%. 60% of the Democrats voted in favor of it. If the Democrats would have stood up, then she could say, you know, Obama was against it, so the Democrats could have stood up and said that we were not against this. We didn't have to go along with a war that had nothing to do with 9/11 whatsoever. So, one last thing. Vote for Jill Stein come November. Jill Stein 2016.